Okay, now on to the Podio portion of this tutorial. This is where we're going to add the fields that we need to move over to ConvertKit to create the subscriber. Now I'm going to use my SI Lead Manager template to add the fields to my Properties app. You can add it to any app you like, or you can create a new app for this. But there's 6 fields, probably 7 if you can include the header, that I'm going to create just so I can separate everything. So I'm going to go into my Properties app, move into my modify template, and I'm going to want to add this right underneath my communications area right here. And the first thing I'm going to put in there is the header, or the section header. So you just mark the beginning of my section. Now I'll use a calculation field for this. And then I'll paste in the code from the tutorial. You can do the same. Now the one thing we have to always do is replace the field token, because you can't paste in a Podio field token. You have to type it in. I'm just going to pick status. You can pick any field you like, because we're not going to use this. We just need to reference a field in a calculation in order to make it work. Now the rest of this is just a calculation that includes an image file, which I use for text header, so I can make it a little bit larger looking instead of the standard font size of Podio. You can't really make it too much larger so it won't stand out. An image will stand out. So I've created an image in Word, and I screenshotted it and then just saved it and moved it over to my server. You can use this image if you like. Just copy this URL, or you can create your own. And the next part of this is just a link back to the top of the page for my link jumping, and then just a little description about what this is. Alright, so that's field number 1. Forgot to mention that you have to put in a label for the field. I don't want to really put any kind of label, so I just put a period, which doesn't take up much room. You can barely notice it, and it makes a good break in between the headers, the labels, from one section to the next. Alright, my next field, we have to add in an address. Now I know I already have an address field in this app, but I'm going to add it again just for your purposes so I can show you. I'll use a location field here, and we'll drag it in right underneath my section header. We'll call this address. And that's all you need here. And then we're going to add 2 more fields here, the first name and last name. You may have a name field already in your app that combines the first and the last name, but when you're sending out emails, most of the time you want to reference them by their first name to be more informal, and it's very hard to separate names on the fly. So the best way to do it is to separate them when you're on your input form, and then it's so much easier just to combine them if you want to combine them. So in our case, we're going to add 2 text fields, one for the first name, one for the last name. First name, last name, and we'll change the input, the text property to a single line field because we don't want multi-line for both of these. So those are the first 3 fields. Now we have a couple more. We're going to add in the email field, and this is going to be the email address that's going to be used to send the emails to. We just have to drag the email field type over in here, and we're done. Next up is the ConvertKit ID, or the subscriber ID field, and that'll be a text field also. We'll add that underneath the email. And this holds the identification number to the subscriber that will be created in ConvertKit. the Zapier process will grab that ID and then update this Podio record after it's done, and we'll use this later on so we can reference which subscriber is related to this Podio item. And additionally, we'll also use this subscriber ID to create a link, and we'll do that at the next field. But one more thing, we have to make sure we create this as a single line field. Don't forget that. Now at this point, after we add the subscriber / ConvertKit ID field, we have to save it because we need to reference this field in the next calculation, and Podio won't let you reference a field until you've saved. So we have to hit done, and it'll pop us outside back into the app, and we'll go back into the template, scroll down to where we were before, and now we can add a calculation field, and then we can cut and paste the code from the tutorial. And now we have to retype in the field token for the ConvertKit or the subscriber ID. Which is this field. Now there is one more field we need to add that I forgot, is the category field that is marked with a new lead. And this is going to be the trigger field in the Zapier Zap. So we'll take a category field, and I like to put this right here. We'll call it choose email sequence. We'll have, in this case, only one option, Podio new lead. In future tutorials that I'm going to create to add on to this ConvertKit, Podio to ConvertKit process, we're going to add more sequences here so we can then choose which sequence we want to add the lead to. But for this case, and I keep it simple, we're just going to add one. And lastly, we want to make this a required field, so this Podio new lead item is always select, so you don't have to do it. So we'll click done.